Thank you for joining me for another video from the Trail of the Green Man. We've got a different topic today. We have Gustavi Seleni's Cryptomancies and Steganography, a very famous cryptology book set in its time. And the reason why we're going to take a look at this is because Gustav Seleni is a believed pseudonym for Augustus the Younger, the Duke of Brunswick and Lunenburg. And the reason why that is important is because here we have him here writing under his real name. And of course we can see here he's a block A user. This is the same block that Daniel Moglen used. As you can see here, if you can remember, or if you can go back and see one of the videos from Daniel Moglen, how the college and fraternity here, you can see all the messages that are flying back and forward, as in these messages, the lines that these messages left behind, or the trails. If you've seen that video, it would obviously help, but you can see the lines left in the page for us here. And what these messages are communications leaving and arriving at the invisible college, basically. And these messages are the lines that allow us to construct the seven-sided tomb. And I think what it is gesturing at is the fact that this seven-sided tomb is how they are sending messages back and forward. But one of the things that really drew my attention was this gentleman here on the left. You can see him here, the prepared gentleman. If you've seen the video, we've discussed this before. You can see he's prepared, he's got his walking stick, like a balance stick, he's got his backpack. He's pretty much good to go. And this is what we see this gentleman here also. He is featured on the front page. Well, it's not the exact same person, but it gets the idea. He's got the backpack, kind of walking stick. It just seems like the prepared person. And we see a message being handed back and forward between two gentlemen. And at the bottom, we can see this gentleman's either... I've heard all sorts of suggestions about this front page. And it is mentioned that this front page, the layout of this front page was actually decided by Gustavus Selenius, or Augustus the Younger, during the printing process. The arrangement of these, I did read that somewhere. But what I like to think of this picture below of the two people working is that one's a gentleman, one's not. Perhaps this is why we see this gentleman holding a hat. Perhaps he's removing the hat from this person. And in my mind, indoors, I don't think you would see a gentleman wearing a hat indoors. And I don't know if this is just leading on to the fact of a bacon being Shakespeare, which if you've seen some of the other videos, you see it is quite a decent idea or proposal here. But there is a lot of stuff on this page. And using what we've learned before, especially from the Daniel Moglen woodblock carving, with this gentleman here being of importance, maybe we can do the same kind of structure or construction here. So, but the first thing that I pick up on is IO is at the end of this line and at the end of this line. And what's kind of like important about these is the line numbers. If we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 lines down, and the value 9, if we were to give it a value from the alphabet, would be I. So at line 9, which is a value of I, we find IO at the end. So then line 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and the value for O is 14. So at line 9, I, and line 14, O, we see IO written at the end, the two instances of this. So immediately I was under the understanding here that there could be some type of construction. So playing along with what we've done before, if I take a line here on this gentleman's staff, I'll just see, yeah, so we can get a good view here. I'll even zoom in for us. There we go. You can see here I've put a nice little line here across this gentleman's staff, and then I've went with another line here on the gentleman's walking stick. I've continued these lines on to a predetermined length because obviously I know what I'm constructing, but the base lines are still there, just like all the examples we've seen in the previous videos, depending on the order you're watching these videos, of course. Then we've got this gentleman's staff, and what it actually makes is, and these are all pre-measured, I've already measured these, this is a 3, 4, 5 triangle, 90 degrees, 37 and 53 degrees, but internally this angle here is 128 and 4/7, enough for us to place our heptagon. So just using the lines here, and we can see this nice little arrow here. If we put a line across that arrow, sorry, let me go, there we go, so you can see it here, it runs down to the other corner of the heptagon. And all I'm doing here with the white lines, I'm just marking the centre off of habit. So using the lines on the page just like before, it's giving us this basis for our 3, 4, 5 triangle and a 7-sided tomb. It's quite kind of interesting, and if you look at the very top here, it gives us crypt, or we could have tomb. So it gives us the choice here at the top of the heptagon for what we are looking at. Now, if we look under, we see crypt, set, CR, and CR being Christian Rosenkreuz. So this is the 7-sided tomb of Christian Rosenkreuz, and we are looking for the tomb of IO. So what we have here is something quite interesting. And if we come down to the bottom here, what we pick up on is crypt, CRIPT, like crypt phonetically. And then we have an acrostic, SET, from scripte. So we have crypt and then SET, set. And then running backwards, I'll just zoom this in so we can see, we have ART. So it's crypt, IO, set, art. And this is what we've done on the page. We have set the art. We've drawn what we were asked to, or what we have been like pushed towards, this tomb of Father RC, but we are looking for the tomb of Brother IO. And what is further interesting to this, if we look at the bottom, if I just highlight this square and mark the centre of it, if I bring a centre line up through this rectangle, so this is like the centre point, halfway, it comes up and it takes in our centre point. So despite having all those angles and various lines, they still manage to keep the heptagon centre in the centre of the rectangle at the bottom, showing that it's something that has been set out deliberately. It's not just some kind of lucky randomness that it's happened. It's still kept its own centre. The page has got a true centre. Now, there is obviously more to this page, but what I would like to look at, there is a second full page in this publication. And here it is. Here is quite a nice, beautiful landscape. And when you're looking at it the first time, it's so easy to get lost in the amount of lines that you can see here. You can see the amount of sticks and things like that. It's quite easy, but it's merely like a distraction to what you should be looking at. And being steganography, there's a couple of things here I'd like to point out. Now, steganography is the art of hiding something in a background noise. It could be anything. It's just the fact that it's kind of disguised within this kind of background noise that is the art of steganography. And if we look closely here, I'm going to highlight these fruits that's in this tree. As you can see, we've got a black dot at the bottom of each fruit. Yeah, we've got one fruit sitting off to the left, and it's not a dot, it's like a circular shadow that's put on this one. I'll just zoom in for us. Like others you can clearly see a dot, yet this one is not. It's just like a blemish that's put on it in a kind of like arc shape to disguise it. So what you have is like these fruits all on the one side with the dot, and then this one set off to the side without the dot, setting it aside for whatever purpose. And if you take another look, what we see is if we look at the buds, all the buds are the same, apart from this one here. So we've got one fruit that's different. We've got one bud that's different from the rest of the scene. And if we take a look up at the stars, we can see each star has got a dot inside it. But the one star that's set off to the side, just like this bud is set off to the side, this fruit is set off to the side. If you look close, you can even see it in this resolution. This one has a dot and a circle. The rest just have a dot. You can clearly see ours has got a nice circle there. I'll zoom right in for us. Dot, 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 dot. And this one has got a circular dot. And if we zoom out, now that you've seen it, you can see the difference. It's hard not to notice it now, actually. Now, using these, if we exclude that dot, exclude that star, what we can actually do is place down a 7-sided tomb. You can see it takes in the star, the star, and the star, and the star. And this red one is set aside. But also the two stars in the middle, as you can see from this point through that star, takes us to the halfway point of the heptagon. Then the second star is from that point, takes us through the star into the halfway point. So what those stars are allowing us to do is to lay down this 7-sided tomb again. But what else is going on this drawing? Because we've got a bud that's separate, a star that's separate, and a fruit that's separate. Now this is where interpretation might come in a little bit, because I've took a line, come down through the corner of our heptagon. We've touched the fruit, and I noticed that we're touching the cross. For some reason we have a grave marker in the middle of this scene. Now, what I've took then is another line from that grave marker, went through the eye of the bud, and then for my last line, we've came through the other bud, which is, again, this is just interpretation, taking in the star that's separate, the fruit that's separate, and the bud that's separate, allows me to make a specific angle, which allows me then to make a 3-4-5 triangle, just using methodical steps. And at the bottom, what it's doing is basically pointing us to a tomb marker with water coming out, with a bull's head beside it. If you'd like to know what these extra details mean, come along and join us at the Trail of the Green Man. If you've enjoyed the website, come and join us at the Discord. Me personally, I'm always looking for some help. If you've got any skills, any talents involved in cryptology, or even crossword puzzles, anything like that, or you like spreadsheets, you want to help keep some documents correctly for us, basically, the scope of the work is so large, I'll take any help we can get. But perhaps you just don't have the time, but would love to be kept in the loop. If you feel this way and you want to help us carry on what we're doing here, make a donation at the website. It will go a long way. Thanks for watching. I'll see you at the Discord.